So today we're going to talk about what it means to be sneaky. I know that seeming sneaky is like it tends to be a negative thing, that we think being sneaky is not a good thing, that you're trying to be deceitful or to hide something. But we're going to dive into that and see that that is true, but that there are instances where maybe that's not a bad thing. Before we get there, we're going to do some mindful practices just to kind of let our body know that it's time for mindfulness. So what we will do is I will invite you to, as I let people in, go ahead and find a comfortable seat. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do something called bee breath. This one's a little weird. Okay, so I know that coming out the gate, we're doing something a little strange. If you cannot do this one where you are, that's fine. You can just sit and breathe. But if you can do this one, just hear me out. It's a good one. It's called bee breath because we're going to be making like a buzzing or a humming sound. Not loud, just that kind of noise. And what we will do is we're going to close our ears. So you ever know, like when you're like, someone says, hey, don't listen to this real quick. Maybe they're talking about your upcoming birthday present or whatever. Or they're like, hey, can you just don't listen for a sec? We go, It's actually a mindful thing to do. So we're going to do that, make a B sound. What's happening, without getting too far into the anatomy, is that your vagus nerve starts in your brain and runs all the way down your spine. And it's the nerve that is mostly in charge of our parasympathetic nervous system. So it tells us to rest, digest, calm down, relax. So we're going to shake that nerve a little bit is what we're going to do. So as silly as it seems, it's actually a powerful thing that's going to tell your relaxation part of your nervous system to engage. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to take your fingers, put them in your ears. You don't have to push them really hard. Just halfway is enough. And then you can start to hear your voice inside your head. And then you're going to hum, okay? So don't do it yet because I want to make sure we're all listening until it's time. So let's do some breaths first. Go ahead and bring your shoulders up to your ears. In through the nose. And then exhale through the nose. Perfect. Let's go ahead and breathe in again. And out. One more time, breathing in and out. And now just sitting there, breathing on your own, notice if there's any place where you're holding any tension. If it's in your shoulders, just drop them away from the ears. If there's tension in your jaw, release it. If there's tension in your face, relax those facial muscles. If you're clenching your hands, release them. And now what we're going to do, you don't have to close your eyes. You certainly can if you would like to, if that's available to you. When I tell you to, you're going to put your fingers in your ears, and then you can just take a deep breath in, and then your exhale is going to be a hum. And since we won't be able to hear each other, I want you to do 3 of those breaths on your own. If you're able to hear me, you can breathe along with me. But if you can't because your ears are plugged up, just do 3 of those. So go ahead and plug in your ears. Breathing in. Okay, hopefully you're done at this point. If you're not, you'll catch up. The point of that one, again, shaking that vagus nerve, but also to shut off our senses to make it to where we're not distracted by noise. If you closed your eyes, you're not distracted by things you see, and then you're totally just in your head. Really weird, but I like it. So if that's not your favorite, don't worry about it. You don't have to do it. Next thing we're going to do, again, to wake up our vagus nerve does wrap around our eyes, so we're going to wake it up. So take your hands and rub them together. Rub, 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 rub. Make some heat like you're making a fire. And once you get them nice and warm, put them on top of your eyes. Just feeling the pressure from your hands, the warmth from your fingers. There's a reason why we do this when we're feeling overwhelmed, why we put our head in our hands and we kind of press into our eyes. It's because it stimulates us. It makes us feel safe and contained. Release when you're ready. You guys are like, man, we're doing some weird ones today. You know, I'm always got my little mixed bag full of fun, mindful things. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to go back to movement, and it's going to be stuff we've done before, okay? So I'm going to back up here where you can see me. We're going to do some tree pose, okay? In fact, I'm going to, hopefully you can hear me. What we're going to do, y'all know tree pose. Your ankle is up against or your heel's up against your ankle. That's level 1. Level 2 is your foot is against your calf. Level 3 is foot against the inner thigh. Never, 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 never is it against your knee. So find the level that works for you. Pop quiz, which level is the best one to do? Trick question, there is not one. Whatever feels right in your body is the right pose. So I guess they're all correct if that's the case. So find the one that works for you. And I want you to imagine, since we're in tree pose, that you're a tree. Bring your branches out. You're a nice strong tree, and try to be as still as possible. Rooting down into that standing leg. And now if you can, move your tree around. Imagine maybe a storm has come up. A tornado is coming by. See if you can stand strong. If you can't, that's okay. And the storm is starting to subside. Bring some stillness back to that leg. Beautiful. Who's feeling it in their leg? Keep your hand up. All right, go ahead and step safely out of the pose and shake that leg if it feels good to you. Holy moly. I've done tree pose a lot. That was intense. So same thing, other side. Y'all know how we do. You're a strong tree. Imagine maybe you're 100 years or maybe even 150 years old. And again, find the level that works for you. Remembering that each level is acceptable. We're just listening to what our bodies can do today. And we appreciate what our body can do today. If your both feet are on the ground, that's okay. We're just glad you're here. We celebrate our body. All right. You've rooted yourself down into your trunk. Bring your branches back out. You're a 100-year-old tree, maybe a 150-year-old tree. And you're standing strong. You've seen a lot of storms, and here comes another one. Move those hands. Ooh. Maintaining your balance. Making it hard on ourselves today. I feel that. Good grief. Horrible winds. Sideways rain. Starting to subside. Starting to subside. And perfectly still. See if you can just stand for a moment in perfect stillness. The only thing moving is your breath, your breathing. And stepping out of the pose, shaking that leg out, patting yourself on the back because that was intense. That was so much work. My leg is going to be sore. Last thing we're going to do, since we're talking about rooting down into who we are, feet are going to be, just put them together, that's okay. No, put a little space. I like it the way that feels better. We're going to start moving in a circle, keeping your feet firmly planted to the floor, moving across all four corners of the feet. Nice big circle. If you do one of these and you have to step out, that's okay. But try to see if you can glue your feet to the floor, moving, making that circle a little smaller, and a little smaller, and a little smaller, until you are moving so little that I cannot even tell that you're moving at all. Coming to perfect stillness. Great. Go ahead and grab a comfortable seat if you haven't already. We're going to move into our reflection piece. So let me tie this back to, I guess, the overall point. So you guys know that we talk a lot about drugs, a lot about alcohol, and how they're really not good for your body, but really especially not good for your brain. They can do some really gnarly things to you, especially since y'all's brain is still under construction because you're not yet 25 years old, and that's around the time that your brain stops developing, if you didn't know that already. But I will say that people are going to try to use drugs for lots of reasons. Not all the time is it peer pressure. People tend to self-medicate with drugs. They think that the instant high that they feel, this feels good, and that they're chasing that because maybe what's going on in their life is not great, and that gives them a little bit of relief, or it just feels fun. That's true, but it's very temporary, and it tends to set up a bit of an addiction situation for some folks that can be really, really hard to come out of. And it can do, for some people, permanent damage to the brain. So all that to say, you guys know that, but there are going to be times where people are going to offer this to you. And it's not going to be like Hollywood where they offer this to you and they say, you should try this. And they feel like, yeah. And they're like pressuring you. A lot of times people offer it to you because they're your friend and they think that they're going to make you feel good and make you feel better. Like, here, no, you should try this. I know you've been really stressed out. This is going to make you feel better. You deserve it. You earned it. This is what this is. So without getting too far into the refusal skills part, and what you should do if someone offers it to you, I want to talk about how being sneaky is a good thing sometimes. It's okay to hide and maybe skirt around or be tricky with people who are offering you things. So example would be if someone hands you a cup of something, taking it, you don't have any intention of drinking it, and faking like you're drinking it, or setting it down and walking away, or sneakily pouring it into the sink. These are things that, yes, it's good to be sneaky because it's making a safe decision and it's saving face. This whole like say no to drugs, that can look really righteous. That can look really judgy to people. And I understand that not all the times are you going to want to be the person that's like, no, I will not do the drugs. Sometimes you've got to, be creative. And so that's where sneakiness comes in. The sneaky person or the trickster, that is an important part of storytelling. You'll notice that tricksters, sneaky characters, sometimes that means they're comedically sneaky. Other times they're like just tricky. So Loki from the Norse mythology, he was a trickster initially, not like a villain per se, but a tricky god. So he would try to trick people. That's very common in tales from all over the world. And when there's a type of character that comes back all the time that we see over and over again, like the hero or the trickster, those are called archetypes, or like the royal king coming to his throne. Like those are archetypes. Archetype is a big word for a type of character that you see over and over again. You see this a lot in Dungeons and Dragons. Like I'm this type of character. That's an archetype. So the trickster, the sneak, that is an archetype that shows up in many cultures, in many stories. We get to live into different types of archetypes for ourselves. Sometimes we're the good guy and we're the hero who's, coming into our own. Sometimes we are the mentor, the guide who's teaching someone younger than us what to do. Sometimes we might even be the bad guy and we realize that, and we got to fix it. But we're going to connect with the sneaky part of ourselves today. So lots of talking. Now let's get to the mindfulness part. Again, you're sitting in a comfortable position. If it's available to you, feel free to close your eyes. And let's just for a second connect back to the breath, noticing as you inhale now, the sensation of air coming in through your nose and back out through your nose. Let's do 2 more of those breaths again together. Noticing your posture and adjusting it to where we're sitting strong, but at ease. Continue breathing on your own pace. I want you to think of a time when it was really fun to be sneaky. It could be a time in your life or a time that you might look forward to later, a time where it's fun to be sneaky. How do people move when they're being sneaky? What kind of movements do they make? When is it helpful to be sneaky? When does it get you in trouble? How do you breathe when you are being sneaky? Can you think of an animal that is sneaky? Are there times when being sneaky can keep you safe? Think of any characters and stories or movies that you're familiar with, myths, legends that are tricksters or that are sneaky. When you're ready, bring your attention back here to this space, to the sound of my voice, opening your eyes if you chose to close them. Maybe putting your hands back together and just rubbing them, not fast like we did with warm eyes, just rubbing them and noticing the sensation. Unlocking the jaw and relaxing the shoulders. If I want you to walk away with one thing, if I had to have you walk away with one thing from this, it would be that it is okay to be sneaky. It is okay to be tricky and trickstery. If it comes down to you being safe and you making choices that don't compromise what your values are, especially if it comes to drugs and alcohol, that you choose to use the tools that are available to you to keep yourself safe. And that might be that you're sneaky, and that's okay. Sneakiness is valuable and necessary. We all have times in our life when we sneak around. So that's what I hope you took from this. And in the chat, if you can, I would love to know what was the animal that you thought of that was sneaky. I will go ahead and tell you that the one I thought of was gorillas. And the reason is, when I go to the zoo, the gorillas are my favorite exhibit. I love to see the gorillas. Gorillas are, of course, very similar to humans, very social animals. And I go there, and the last time I was there, they were pranking each other. And so one of them was resting in a hammock. Another one would come down and shake the hammock and wake up and then like hide. I just thought that was hilarious. I thought that was great. So cat and fox. Yes, cats are really sneaky. They are. They like to try to, pounce on you. You've seen the video where the cat's like there and still, and then they move the video away, and the cat's like suddenly a lot closer. It's like one of my favorite videos. It's ancient video, the beginning of the internet. Not really, but And fox are really sneaky. They're really smart too. Crows are really, really, really smart, and so they can figure out how to like undo locks and use tools to get stuff. So sneakiness definitely serves us and serves animals sometimes. I think that's how humans got to be the top of the food chain, is because of our brains, not because of our brawn. And is there any character that you thought of from a movie or from a book that you thought was a sneaky or a trickster type character? I thought of Gollum from the Lord of the Rings, which I love the Lord of the Rings. Because he is kind of tricky and kind of sneaks around, and at the same time is a really important character in the story. So, and then myths and legends too. Like I said, Loki was originally a trickster god. And well, I don't want to give one away, but if you have a character that you thought of for a TV show or movie or a book, drop it in the chat. Let me see. I guess I will spoil the one. So hopefully this wasn't your idea, but from Moana, Maui was a trickster god because he was changing into forms that he was a shapeshifter, so he could change into different forms, and then he stole the heart of Tafiti, which was not good. So anybody got something? Draco Malfoy, absolutely. And then Sherlock Holmes, for sure. He is kind of tricky. In the new series, there's a whole episode where he basically fakes that he loves a woman to get her clearance into like this high profile thing. So yeah, he definitely uses trickiness to achieve goals. So again, be careful with your trickiness. Make sure that you're not, up to no good. I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good. Harry Potter, definitely some sneakiness going on there, which is helpful. They do some sneaking around. That is beneficial and that is good, but use it wisely. And I wouldn't use it for anything, gonna get you in trouble. So just be careful with it. But hopefully that was enlightening and fun and different. I think we spend a lot of time in society being like, be a good person. And that's true, but being a good person has a lot of different layers to it. And sometimes being a good person means sticking to who you are and standing true to who you are. Just like in the tree pose, when we had to root down, we were rooting into who we are. Even though the storms blew by, stuff changed. We didn't lose sight of our identity as that tree rooted into the ground. Didn't matter what the weather was, we were going to be who we are. So I think being a good person is the same thing, but it could look different. Like in some instances, you get to speak honestly and openly. In other instances, you might have to be a little sneaky to maintain your core values. So end of sermon, but I hope that was resonating